Hello, welcome to another Adventures in Bing Chat episode. So another one where I'm sort of comparing and contrasting prompts, but the specific point of this is to encourage people to experiment with subtle changes in prompts so they can really see inconsistencies, and I'm trying to think of a good word for this. But this variance that quite obviously you'll see in large language models just because of the nature of them, and how that leads or doesn't lead to sort of things that people I think have been calling hallucinations. I'm just calling it making shit up. So what I've done with this is, because these examples take a while to run, I've already run them and we'll walk through them, and I'll explain as I'm going along what I've done. The first three are the same prompts, just run multiple times, because in the past I've done that, and it's a useful thing to do, just to see the chaos inherent in the system. So I'm going to walk through this, explain the differences, but I'm going to start off with the original one that I did. So I had this grand idea this afternoon of getting it to create a list from 1968 to 1968 to 2023 of all the new metal genres I called it created each year, and I'll work on this in a moment. We'll get to the point where I start swapping out this term. Created each year. Please do this as a bulleted list of years and explain as necessary. I found for consistency between this morning and now, I had to add this in. So this idea of like overstating, because I found a couple of times I ran it ignored the instruction here, or the implied instruction by saying, give me a list of new metal genres created each year. And in a moment you'll see I just run it from 1990 to 1999, and I think it incorrectly assumed that I meant the decade generally, and you'll see how that manifested itself. When I switched back to doing it over multiple decades, I didn't see the problem again. But I'll show you where it came up and what it looked like. So I did keep running this. Now I had to keep doing continue each time, and if you're familiar with the emergence of certain genres, you'll see things get a little wobbly or very wobbly in places. And as we walk through the different terms that I swapped out, we'll see whether that gets worse or better. Also, I'll do what I normally do, which is to copy the prompts into the description. So if you want to play around with this, you can run them yourselves. You can swap out to a genre that you're more familiar with. Obviously, it's fairly easy to go away and fact check all of this. But it was quite interesting how it did it. What was good is because it started placing in specific bands, it was fairly easy as well to see where it started or went wrong in places. Something that really interesting happened this afternoon, and I haven't been able to actually repeat it, was as I kept clicking continue, it started really making stuff up and carried on past 2023 into 24, 25. Just, it wasn't making genres up, but it was just putting genres in randomly, and saying, oh, this was the year so-and-so genre emerged, and then placing bands on that timeline. So it was almost like doing this weird prediction thing. So this Yeah, they've been kicking around for a long time. Yeah, so you can sort of see if it's these are genres you're familiar with. There's some definite problems here. So what I thought it'd be interesting to do in that case is to take just a decade from 1990 to 99 and do a similar thing, and do that 3 times. So you can see here we've got alternative metal, grunge, death and roll, stoner metal, groove metal, symphonic metal, folk metal, new metal, power metal, metalcore. Now, some of these are pretty close. What was interesting is when I ran it again, obviously, like I said, you always expect a bit of wiggle room. Might just pick a different thing, but it did move some stuff. So Death and Roll 92 became Death and Roll in 93, and it squeezed in industrial metal. And then I'm trying to think what else got squeezed out. Was it stoner? Yeah, so stoner got completely squeezed out. And you can see here it's only suggesting 1 as well. And then I ran it again. Slightly shorter answers this time. But no doubt it's probably starting to swap stuff out. Maybe that's the same list but just shorter. Quickly scanning it. Yeah. So then I started changing this instead of created, saying other words. So I tried emerged. And this was when I got an example of what I spoke about earlier, which is it didn't bother putting the years in, even though I restated the fact that I wanted it as a bulleted list of years and explain as necessary. When I did it a second time, with the same prompt, it did do it. So now again you can compare the two, and we now have Death Doom has appeared. And so I went on and I just slightly tweaked things. So now I said, can you list the new metal genres that came to prominence each year? And again, it would be possible for me to go and just map everything back and then map it against a real timeline through looking through Wikipedia articles. I then asked it to ones that became mainstream each year. And you can see the basic, it looks like the same things are cropping up roughly on the timeline. Now, for instance, this because 96 Korn were already on their second album by this time. So, that you could argue that should be earlier. In fact, again, with a lot of these genres, of course, stuff gets assigned retrospectively. So, is it able to deal with that? And then we get this one, which was, I just said, can you list the new metal genres that had the best-selling albums each year? And which one did I pick up on here? Your Life is Peachy came out in 96, I do know that. Maybe this was okay. Maybe this one was okay. Yeah. You have to excuse me, I can't remember. Again, I could very easily fact check all of this after the event. So yeah, that's what happens if you... So the differences between them was me just really changing this term. So here it was best-selling, here it was mainstream, here it was prominence, here it was emerged, and then here it was created. Then I finished it off with this, which was a slight variation I came up with this afternoon, which was again going back to 68 to 2023. Same first bit. Notice here I didn't bother adding in that restatement of I wanted it year by year, because I tended to find if I did this over a span more than a decade, I didn't get that weird anomaly cropping up occasionally. And then I put in this, also for each genre you select in the year, could you identify an album from that year that might be considered a lesser known gem? And this is where I definitely noticed some things. So yeah, there's definitely very weird things going on here. It's getting very confused. I mean, what, Death Doom? That wasn't until the 90s. So yeah, it is really just making shit up at this point. 73 Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. And certainly this was never out in 76. Or this. Yeah, Welcome to Hell. That was like 1980, I think. Yeah, no. Things have gone seriously wrong at this point. And of course, these are all running independently. It's not as if it's, as far as I know, I'm not contaminating this. These are all separate instances of the question. So it's like me wiping each time. I just needed them all on screen so you could compare and contrast with this. I mean, you know, Scum, Napalm Death, 1987, and I could fact check all of these. Seven Churches, No Way, 1980. And it even says Black Sabbath self-titled was released in 68, which wasn't. It was released in 1970. As to whether these, I would consider these hidden gems, well, I suppose most of them are not that well known. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, yeah, these are fairly well known within the Doom Death, so. But again, it's, yeah, we're really pushing its knowledge here. And then this one, which was a bit of fun. I was going to finish off with, I always like to end with something fairly frivolous. I did a post about this in the community section of the channel because I thought it was interesting. So I went with this. So could you create a name for a new black metal band, describe their subgenre and come up with a title for the album? Also create a bit of promotional backstory that sounds suitably necro. So this time round I got this. So I tried it before and I posted the results to the community section on my YouTube channel. So it's come up with the name Necrofrost. The subgenre is atmospheric black metal and the album title is Frozen in the Abyss. So promotional backstory. Necrofrost is a band that emerged from the frozen wastelands of Norway, where they recorded their debut album in a remote cabin surrounded by snow and ice. Their music is a blend of raw black metal and haunting ambient sounds, creating a dark and cold atmosphere that evokes the feeling of being lost in the abyss. There you go. Their lyrics deal with themes of death, despair and nihilism, inspired by their own experiences of isolation and suffering. Frozen in the Abyss is a masterpiece of atmospheric black metal that will chill you to the bone and make you question your existence. Now, when I tried this earlier in the day, let me just bring this across. I've copied it back from here. So this is the one from around lunchtime today. So same band name, Necrofrost, but spelt with a K, because that way it's a bit more necro, I suppose. Blackened doom metal this time. Still Frozen in the Abyss. So I don't know where it's getting these titles from. Probably stealing someone else's. And the promotional backstory was hailing from the frozen wastelands of Norway. And then it deviates, so is a new force of darkness and despair in the black metal scene. This is much better, actually, this one, the first one. Combining the slow, crossing riffs of doom metal with the cold, grim atmosphere of black metal, Necrofrost creates a sound that is both haunting and heavy. Their debut album, Frozen in the Abyss, is a concept album that tells the story of a doomed expedition to the Arctic Circle, where the explorers encounter ancient horrors and unspeakable evils. I really like the sound of this album, actually. The album features guest vocals from Fenris of Darkthrone and Attila Sar from Mayhem, as well as samples from real recordings of Arctic winds and ice cracking. Frozen in the Abyss is a masterpiece of blackened doom metal that will chill your bones and freeze your soul. So yeah, this is much better, the earlier one. And I've posted the artwork it generated, because this time round I had some real fun and games with Bing. So I asked it can you create some artwork for this so it looks like it's been through a fax machine several times, because that needs to be done. And when I did this earlier in the day, it also added in some unreadable band logo. Well, they were readable, actually, readable logo, which is probably counts as a fail because of that. But it also, it was not only was readable, but it misspelt the band, which it if you use this a lot, you know that it never gets words right, or doesn't seem to. So I said, can you hang on, and I accidentally copied that in, but what I meant to say was, can you get rid of the writing in this case? I thought that was better than saying the logo, because clearly there was some writing here, not just logos, and make it more frostbitten and necro. So in the one earlier today, I just said, can you get rid of the logo and make it more frostbitten and necro, and it did that perfectly. But it didn't. It actually now added in a band logo or band name. So I then asked it again to get rid of the logo. And it didn't really seem to attempt to do that. I got different artwork. And then I said, can you remove any words? So it said, I'm sorry, but there are no words in the image. Do you want me to do something else? So I said, well, there's a band logo in the image that needs to be removed. And it said, I'm sorry, but I already moved the band logo in the previous image. So at that point, I gave up. So earlier it worked fine. Now it is insistent that there is no band logo there. There are no words there. So yeah, if you're thinking about using it for your, blackened doom metal project, or in this case, it was atmospheric black metal, it might get a bit shirty with you. So yeah, it's something you're going to have to deal with. But the results, like I said, which I've posted in the community section, much better. And they're definitely a album cover, anonymous as well. Doesn't have the band name on there, even in an unreadable format. Maybe it's embedded in the album so cleverly it's that unreadable. It does have a skull on it as well, so check it out. I don't know if I can. I don't really want to bring that across, actually. So hopefully this was informative and both entertaining at the end there. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next fun-filled episode of Adventures in Bing Chat.